Welcome, everyone, to the Victory Theater Bare Bones production of Backstory, an evening of true stories, poetry, and flights of fancy. I'm Carl Weintraub. I'll be your host. The way Backstory works is we invite four storytellers and two poets to write a new piece for the theme of the show. And the theme of the show is always the title of a memorable play or movie. The participants can write true personal stories. They can write fiction. They can write about the themes of the play or the characters in the movie, or they can just use the words in the title as a prompt, a writing prompt. When we did Cat in the Hot Tin Roof, one of the storytellers told the story of his cat. Tonight's theme is West Side Story. And we're going to hear a story about an interracial marriage, a story about the importance of the question, where are you from? Going to hear an adolescent coming of age story, some poetry, giving us a fascinating overview of the other side of West Side Story. And this being Backstory, we're going to hear the backstory of one of the characters in the play told by his sister, who's not necessarily a character in the play. And usually we begin the night with the host giving you a little synopsis of the play in case you haven't seen it. But who hasn't seen West Side Story, or Romeo and Juliet if you haven't seen West Side Story for that matter? So I thought I'd use the couple of minutes I have here to tell you a little story of my own. And I thought about telling you the story of my marriage to a Puerto Rican woman, but she'd get pissed off at me for even calling it a marriage. And believe me, the last thing you want is a Puerto Rican woman pissed off at you. I mean, we lived together and we had a child together and we filed our taxes jointly, and I still love her like a sister, but we never actually tied the knot per se. So technically, those 7 tumultuous years were not a marriage. So I think the story I'll tell you tonight is about my brush with gang involvement when I was 15, 16 years old back in 1961, when the original movie first came out. First of all, I grew up in Los Feliz Echo Park, which is a far cry from the mean streets of the Upper West Side of New York City. But we had a warlord in the gang from New York City. I can't remember his name. We called him New York. And he was one bad motherfucker. And we all tried to emulate it. Well, I did anyway. I copied his accent. I started reading a lot of Damon Runyon out loud so I could practice. And I saw New York in a street fight one time. And I won't even tell you about it. It was so brutal. But he was not our leader. Our leader was Roger the Moose Musa, my best friend since first grade. If someone walked up to the Moose and said, "You think you bad?" the Moose would say, "Bam." Yeah. His big brother taught him that. His big brother was the scariest cat I have ever met. He was a gang leader himself, who later became president of the Los Angeles Juniors Chamber of Commerce. So leadership, right? But he didn't want his brother involved in gangs, so he never brought Roger into the fold. So Roger, the Moose, decided to do it himself. He got a bunch of us together. I don't know how he called us all, but there we were. And here's the thing. I wasn't allowed at any of the gang meetings. Roger had taken it upon himself when we were in first grade, see, to be my protector. Nobody ever fucked with me because of the Moose. And we were best friends. So sure, when he had a gang, I was going to be in it, but no way was he going to let me be put in a position where if the shit hit the fan, any of it could land on me. And the shit did hit the fan. See, Moose's plan was to steal a gun and kill all the gang leaders in Los Angeles. Then when chaos ensued, we'd step in and take over. Now that is probably the stupidest plan in the whole wide world. And Roger was not a stupid guy. So why didn't I say anything to him about how stupid it was? So there were two flunkies in the gang. I didn't even know who they were supposed to steal the gun from someone's house. Moose knew the house and where the gun was kept. They broke in the middle of the night, got caught, told the cops it was all Roger's idea, and the cops came and dragged the Moose out of bed that very night, and off he went to juvie, and that was the end of my gang involvement. And those gangs Roger wanted to take over, they went on. The avenues, named after the numbered avenues along Figueroa, they were still strong in Highland Park when my wife Lori and I moved here 26 years later in 1987. You could hear gunfire almost every night. Not anymore. And you know why, don't you? Just like in Spielberg's retelling of West Side Story, gentrification. And hey, I'm glad there's no gang activity here anymore. But I don't know, maybe because of that brush with gangsterism I had in my youth. I don't know, I've always felt, I don't know, an empathy with those guys. I mean, like Riff talks about in the movie, when they be taking everything away from you, then all you got left is each other. And I'm a white boy in LA. Nobody ever has and probably never will try to take everything I have away from me. And I see around me Black folk who were never even given the opportunity to get anything in the first place, and Latinos who have been in this city longer than any of us have been, and they're getting shit taken away from them right and left. But there are also white folk out there too, on those mean streets or rural counties or red states, who, like the Jets in the movie, are getting their lives taken away from them as well. So really, we're all in this together, right?